Okay, now batch normalization, and this is making sure that all machines speak the same language, or at least the best that you can, right? So what is batch normalization? Imagine that you are conducting a scientific study across multiple labs, multiple laboratories, and each lab has a slightly different piece of equipment. One measures, let's say, simple example, one measures temperature in Fahrenheit, other lab measures in Celsius. And so one scale is calibrated differently than the other, right? So before you can compare results, you need to standardize everything so that all the measurements mean the same thing. So you need to have all the measurements meaning the same things. This is what batch normalization does for AI systems. Now, let's give you a simple definition. So batch normalization is like a universal translator that makes sure all information going into an AI system is measured and formatted the same way. So, real world analogy. Imagine conducting scientific studies across multiple laboratories. Before comparing results, you need to standardize all measurements so that everything means the same thing. All right, that needs to be important. Now, why is this important, of course, in healthcare? I think you may understand because we know that healthcare data is fairly messy. Different hospitals use different equipment, measure different things in different units, and they follow different procedures and practices. So one hospital might measure blood pressure every hour, while another might measure every 4 hours for a certain medical problem. One lab might report glucose levels in milligram per deciliter, while another hospital might use millimole per liter. This is especially also important, for example, if you are conducting a study or an AI system used in the US is looking to being used in England, perhaps, where I believe they have millimole per liters instead of milligram per deciliters for glucose levels. So without batch normalization, an AI system trying to learn from data from multiple hospitals or settings would be like a person trying to follow a recipe where some ingredients are measured in cups and others are in liters, while others are measured in handfuls, perhaps, right? So the AI would spend all the time trying to figure out what the measurements actually mean instead of actually learning the important medical patterns. So let's give you a real world example. I think you got the idea, but let's give you a real world example. For example, take blood pressure monitoring. So hospital A uses automated cuffs that take readings every 15 minutes. Hospital B uses manual readings taken by nurses every 2 hours. Now, hospital C has older equipment that gives different readings than the newer machines. So nothing's normalized. So batch normalization helps the AI understand that these measurements are actually tracking the same thing, and that is blood pressure, despite all of the different methods and the timings and maybe even slightly different readings. So let's take lab results, for example. Different labs use different reference ranges for the same test, right? A normal white blood cell count might be, let's say, from 4,000 to 11,000 at one lab, while it would be listed as 4.5 to 11 at another lab, right? So batch normalization is a process that helps the AI understand that these are the same measurements. They're just, and it tells the AI that these are just being expressed differently. Dear all, I hope you are doing great and that you are liking these lessons and you are enjoying and you are learning. And I did want to suggest something as an option for you. Only if and only if you are one of those who want to have this content in a more organized manner, there is a program that I have set up that you can find in the description. It absolutely is not necessary. However, it is only for those who do thrive in an organized approach, and there just might be a few more goodies there as well. Anyways, I wanted to share this, and now back to the video. Let's look to exemplify from this image as an example of batch normalization. So before normalization and after normalization, you see all these numbers here Okay, you see all of these numbers here, and you have a 0 to, let's say, 105 perhaps, right? And I'm not going to suggest what they signify, but just to give you an idea. So it removes some of the numbers, right? And what it also did, it is normalized it. All the values have a central 0 and has values before it and values after it. Everything is standardized, everything is normalized to a particular scale that can be used for all the values. And batch normalization standardized different measurements to the same scale, This same scale will now be used. Now, what does this actually end up meaning? And let's say from the patient's perspective, AI systems can learn from data across multiple hospitals, making them smarter and more accurate. And your care is then not just limited to a specific equipment or procedures at your hospital. Different data can be applicable to your situation. And AI recommendations that are based on broader medical knowledge can also be applicable, if done properly. They can also be applicable to your local practices or the other way around. So how does this affect care? So when a doctor uses an AI diagnostic tool with batch normalization, it helps AI interpret your test results correctly, even if your hospital uses different equipment than where the AI was trained on. However, of course, I would like to caveat that this is going to be a process. And as you, the human in the loop, will be able to ascertain and ask the right questions and look at the specifics, because right now, for example, we're buying a computer, right? Okay, this RAM, this processor, these many gigabytes, etc. This graphics card. So in the future, you will know about the batch normalization processes and what possibly needs to be done at your location, at your hospital, or at your clinic, that you may even need to tweak the model a little bit. So again, that's where you come in, and so you will understand the specifics of that model. So yeah, there you have it. Batch normalization is another feature that you need to be aware of. So in the next lesson, we will be talking about decision trees.